sentence patterns, how they differ from clauses, and also how they differ from non-finite clauses. A quick look here. First of all, what is a sentence? Let's define it. Actually, let's just look at it. A sentence needs to have a capital letter to begin with and a full stop, a period at the end. That's what a sentence is. A capital letter and a full stop. Actually, instead of the full stop, you can also have a question mark or an exclamation mark. And there are four basic patterns that a sentence has. It can be simple, compound, complex, or compound complex. Now, what do these terms actually mean? If it's simple, it means that between the capital letter and the full stop, there's one clause, symbolized by this triangle. If it's a compound pattern, it means that there are two clauses. They are two independent clauses, and they are joined together by an and, or a word like but. So at the beginning here you have a capital letter, and then you have a full stop at the end, but you have and or but somewhere there, and they are of equal value, the two clauses. If it's complex, then one clause is dependent on another. So one clause, this one, is the independent one, and this one is a dependent one. Sometimes books refer to these as being the main or the subordinate clause. And a compound complex then is a combination. You might have two independent clauses, and the second one has a dependent clause attached to it. Now let's look at these in detail. Here we have a sentence. Amanda, with great skill and daring, quickly extricated herself from the web of intrigue. Now, although there's a lot of information here, basically this is saying Amanda extricated herself. That's the essence of what is being said there. And all the other parts, well, they are not obligatory to include, but we do them as we dress up language. And here there is simply a clause. In the second example, we have something similar. The first part here is similar, but there's a comma and she eventually won the legal case. Now, a capital letter and a full stop, so therefore it's a sentence. But here there are two clauses. How do we know there are two clauses? Before we've learned that a clause must have at least a subject and a predicator. In this case, she won. And in this case, Amanda extricated herself. So they both qualify to be a clause. There are two clauses, and they are connected by the word and. So therefore you have this pattern. It's a compound pattern. Then you have another version, and this time it's also a series of dependent clauses, but connected by but. And this is getting a little bit on the long side in terms of your essay writing, or if you're writing in your research. And you have different ways in which you can work with this to make it more readable for your reader. So here we have three examples so far. One independent clause. Here we have two independent clauses. Here we have three independent clauses connected by a conjunction. And this conjunction gives them equal value, so to speak. Now in this case here, we've changed it around a little bit. Although she had never left her neighborhood, comma, and then Amanda, and the same thing again. Now in this case, the word although makes the first part dependent on the second part, and it looks like this. This here represents Amanda, although she had never left her neighborhood, Amanda, with great skill and daring, quickly extricated herself from the web of intrigue. Now how do we know one is dependent and one is independent? Well, if you look at this clause here, you can't stop after neighborhood. You can't say, although she had never left her neighborhood. You're leaving the reader or the listener hanging there. So it's not a complete clause because it's dependent upon this main or independent clause. Similarly, you can have a change of word order, and now the dependent clause is at the end, even though she had never left her neighborhood. I mean, just try saying it. If I said this, even though she had never left her neighborhood, to interrupt me there because I've not completed what I'm saying. Now let's have a look at this pattern here. What's taking place here? Here we have a pattern that looks like this. We have, although she had never left her neighborhood, Amanda with great skill and daring quickly extricated herself from the web of intrigue, and she eventually won the legal case. There are 3 clauses here, but this is the way they are related to each other, and they're related to each other because at the time of writing the writer has chosen something here, or this is a conjunction, or this is a subordinating conjunction, and because of the way the writer has chosen to write this, in this case me, I'm the writer, then it creates a certain kind of structure. Now you can also have dependency which are not based on clauses. All of these are clauses, so clauses can potentially exist by themselves. So here, had you not had the word although, then you could have had 2 clauses. She had never left her neighborhood, full stop, and then the rest of it. And then it would have had this kind of representation. Now we're going to just change a few things so you see how this works when you don't have a complete clause. Look at this here. It's very similar. Amanda with great skill and daring quickly extricated herself from the web of intrigue, eventually winning the legal case. Now eventually winning the legal case, there's no subject here and there's no finite verb. Consequently, this is a non-finite clause, and it looks like this. This represents the finite clause, and this is the non-finite clause. Here's another example. Despite never leaving her neighborhood, Amanda with great skill and daring quickly extricated herself. So now you have the dependent non-finite clause at the front. Notice the way it's been written here is unlike the way it had been written here. As a consequence, there's a different kind of connection here. So this is a non-finite clause attached to a finite clause. And finally, there's one more example here which also shows something like that. So this is a quick look at different kinds of sentence patterns, and these different sentence patterns are choices that a writer makes at the time of writing that helps us, the readers, take in what is being said in the best possible way. Hope you found this presentation to be useful and interesting.